Hi, it's Michael Pilarski with another Friends of the Trees Botanicals video, and today we're talking about holy basil or Tulsi basil. And here we are, October 1st, 2020, and it's getting late in the season. So we'll talk about holy basil here and how we're going to harvest it. So this is something I've been growing for years. It's one of my favorite scents in the garden. You can see a bunch of honeybees working this at the moment. Really good plant for honeybees. And, pretty good demand for this herb. It's famous, of course, in India and more so in the U.S. Now, this has been harvested probably 5 cuttings already. And that's why it's pretty short. I mean, these bushes can get quite a bit bigger, but we just keep cutting them back. And they grow and set, flower and set new tops really rapidly. They're one of the most rapidly growing plants. I get more cuttings on this than just about anything in the garden. And this is late in the season, so some of the leaves are starting to look a bit bedraggled, and the color isn't as good. Some of you can see are quite green yet, but some are sort of turning on a little bit more yellow. So this is a good time. We're going to harvest this and get it off. We might get time for a little bit more regrowth if the frost holds off, but this is definitely the last big harvest of the year. So when I harvest it, I usually like to do a long pair of scissors and just give it what I call a bowl cut. So first you cut across the top, and then you go around the sides and cut it off at the sides. And the goal, in this case, since it's going to be one of our last cuttings, I'll cut it back. This is about how far back I cut it. And this will just, like I said, keep coming back throughout the growing season. But if this was my last cutting and I knew it was really going to frost here in the next day or so, I would even cut it back stiffer than that. Here's some that are actually going to seed quite a bit. That's because it didn't get harvested properly the last time, and so it left some seed stalks that kept developing. My goal when I cut and clip this is that I get all the flowering tops off, so it's just down to the stems and leaves, and then every leaf axil will resprout. Here's a nice looking one here. So this is actually a bit on the late side for a cutting, because this is about maybe normal, but you could cut it a little bit earlier. The seeds a lot of times I'll cut before they're that advanced. But it's see there's a nice really long stems there, which is pretty good for our location. Some parts of the world will grow this a lot stronger than this. So we're going to go through, and I like the scissors because you can really cut it just the place you want. Okay, so there's the cutting aspect. This will go home and go into the dryer. Don't want to dry it too. It's a really fast dryer. It dries in 24 hours, 36 hours, depending where it starts in the dryer. Now, a very interesting fact about this plant, which is new to me. For years, we've been calling this Ocimum sanctum, or Ocimum tenuiflorum is one of the botanical names. They're used interchangeably. I don't know which one's correct. But Richo Czech at Strictly Medicinal Herbs told me this year that he'd really been working a lot with all these holy basils and different kinds, and he said that this is actually not Ocimum sanctum tenuiflorum. This is not the true holy basil from India. This is actually from Africa. This is Ocimum Kilimanjaro or africanum. It is actually an African Tulsi rather than an Indian Tulsi. Who would have guessed? And all these years, not only myself, but many other people have been growing this in the U.S. It's the most common thing people call holy basil here. So it's so I don't know where we are with what the legalities are of calling this holy basil now. Are we supposed to call it African holy basil? Might be a good way to call it. So we start this in the greenhouse in the spring because it's really sensitive to frost, and then we plant it out after danger of frost. Usually we get 1 or even 2 cuttings of the top while it's still in the 4-inch pot before it even goes into the ground. So that's one of the reasons it gets so many cuttings. And one of the important things is because I can't have other herbs mixed in with it or other grasses or weeds, I am always meticulously weeding my holy basil patch so that it is clean of other kinds of weeds that I have to worry about getting in my mix. So as you can see, looking across here, this is pretty solidly just holy basil. Here is some that didn't get harvested also early, and this is actually, these seeds are really moving along towards, we could actually get some viable seeds out of this probably. There's actually some ripe seeds starting to fall out of this, so we'll let this stay out here for another couple of weeks or just before frost. When it frosts, a lot of times a lot of the seed capsules will just drop off, so you want to harvest your seed crop again just before that frost, and then there'll be some after ripening. So we'll get some seed. We have some others that we're growing for seed crop that we've never harvested. If you want really the best quality and the most quantity of seed of this, you may trim it back a few times in the pot or early in the season, but basically you let it go without cutting it for foliage for the most part, and so it can make lots of seed capsules. Anything else I might want to say about holy basil? Great medicinal, and you can always look that up on your own, what it's useful for. We could probably say this, that everything that we've been saying about using Tulsi and holy basil for this African holy basil holds true as well. So have a good day out there. Grow some holy basil in your garden too, and it's just such a wonderful scent. I just love running my hands through this stuff. So bye bye for now.